Okay, in this video, we're gonna go over how to get rid of a thumb flick. Now let's first define what a thumb flick is and why we actually want to get rid of it. A thumb flick is when you have your guide hand interfere with your extension towards the rim. That's where you're going to see players' guide hands either completely turn out like this when they're shooting. So for me, I'm left-handed, it would completely turn out like this, or sometimes players will just push with their thumb. Either way, the reason we want to get rid of it is because oftentimes what happens is it makes players miss left and right. Because you're pushing with two sources of power, you have two things to control for, your right hand and your left hand. If you have two sources of power, because you have to control for both things, you have more room for error. Because you perfectly need to push with enough power and touch from your right hand and enough power and touch from your left hand to perfectly make it go straight. Oftentimes what we'll see with players with thumb flicks is backspin issues. So the ball won't be spinning right. It'll be kind of spinning a little bit of side spin or a little bit of a tilt, and that often will lead to those rim outs and left and right misses. If we can control for misses left and right and we can just make shots go straight, even if they're missed straight, like a front rim or back rim, then all we're gonna have to control for is power and speed. So less variables you have to control for, the easier it'll be to create consistency in your shot, because it'll be just a lot more simple. We don't have two things, we just have one thing, just our right hand doing the work, or just our left hand if you're left-handed. Now, in order to get rid of a thumb flick, there's a couple of things we got to do. I was a shooter who had a thumb flick, and I shot an extremely high percentage from the three-point line. I had a thumb flick up until I was around 19 or 20, and I shot like 48% from the three my freshman year in college. I was one of the highest percentage shooters from the three-point line my freshman year in the state of California. Now, once I got rid of a thumb flick, I got even better. So my ceiling as a shooter rose because I got rid of that thumb flick. I could have just kept it and just said to myself, well, I'm shooting a high percentage, so why even get rid of it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that might be the case for you. There's obviously some shooters with thumb flicks, like Kyrie Irving is probably the best example of a shooter with a thumb flick. Ray Allen had a little bit of a thumb flick, but most shooters don't shoot that well with a thumb flick. Most shooters are missing, again, left and right. And if you look at those players, Kyrie Irving, Ray Allen, for example, they're ending up with perfect rotation every time, and obviously those guys are some of the best shooters in the world. So if you're not already at that position, which if you're watching this video I would assume that you're probably not, then it probably makes more sense to get rid of that thumb flick, especially if you're getting left and right misses, and especially if your backspin isn't good. First thing I want you to do is check your hand placement. For me personally, the reason I had a thumb flick was because my right hand wasn't in the middle. I used to hold it kind of like this. So it was impossible for me to push through the middle of the basketball without a thumb flick because my hand wasn't even in the middle. So generally what I tell players is find that air hole, or obviously there's other parts of the middle of the basketball like the L and the S, that's kind of the middle as well, and put either your index or your middle finger there. I personally like the index finger. You can try out what you feel comfortable with. Some players have a split where they have the middle in between their index and middle. Really doesn't matter. Just find what's comfortable and put the middle of your hand there, right? From there, you want to check your hand placement with your left hand as well. A lot of thumb flicks come from your hands being too close. So players will have both of their hands behind the ball. So Giannis is a really good example of this. When he gets up, you'll see a picture of him just like with both his hands behind the basketball. We want to really avoid this because when your hands are behind something, your hands are going to push on it, right? So if I were to try to push someone away, I would always put my hands behind it. So we want to make sure your hands aren't too close like this. Most shooters, what they're going to end up doing is having their hand on the side, but more actually on the top. So we look at like Stephen Curry, Damian Lillard, so on. We're going to see their hands kind of creep up towards the top. If you get too close to the side, this is kind of the trouble with making sure that players are holding it on the side. It's a little bit of a myth. On the side, my hands are way too close. A little bit higher up, I have more ball control, more security with the ball, and I'm less likely to thumb flick the ball because my hands aren't behind like this. Now, once you've actually done that, what I need you to do is build power with your shooting hand. All right, so if you're right-handed and you shoot with your right hand, you need to build power with your right, vice versa if you're with your left hand. So, very, very simple. We have to start with one hand. So first thing we're gonna do is get very comfortable shooting with one hand. So you're gonna get that ball into your shooting hand and just get very comfortable shooting one-handed form shots. Now we're gonna wanna make sure that we're not just staying close. A lot of people warm up with this, but I need you getting comfortable and strong with this shooting hand. So what we're gonna have to do is continue to back up. I want you eventually being able to shoot from the three-point line, but get to the mid-range, start shooting from there, and then we're gonna start to back up. And this is something you should be doing basically every single day. Next, what we're gonna wanna do, and you can even do this at the start, is add in a little bit of guide hand movement. So you'll see some shooters, what they'll do is just kind of mirror what their guide hand will do. So they'll just kind of keep it right here. It won't actually be touching, but they'll just do one-handed form shooting with their guide hand actually doing some work so that you're not literally shooting one-handed. I mean, obviously only one hand is pushing, but we're kind of having some guide hand movement because it's a little bit more realistic. Next thing we're gonna do is a guide hand slide. Shout out to Mike Dunn, I got this from him. A guide hand slide is just like a one-handed form shot where you're holding it like this and then moving the ball up, but you're gonna have your guide hand just on the side of the ball. I like to tell players, think about having it so that there's so little pressure that it's like you can have an egg or a very small animal there without hurting the egg or the animal. So the least amount of pressure, and I'll even tell players take your fingers off so it's just your palm. And the slide is created because when we move the ball up here and twist it like we do with one hand, that creates a slide on your palm. So it's gonna be like this. And you'll be able to hear that guide hand slide. All right, so again, it's here and that slide is created right there. Now try to make sure we're not relying on your guide hand. So don't twist it here, because if I let my guide hand go, ball falls out. Just like you do with one-handed, you don't twist it here, you move it up, then you twist right around here, and then you push towards the rim. That's the same thing you do with this guide hand slide. Again, we're just now trying to teach your body to lessen up the guide hand interference. So the one-handed form shooting is all about building strength with your shooting hand, but you also have to teach your body that your guide hand is not needed. Because even if you have enough strength, you're still gonna push with your guide hand if that's a habit of yours. All right, next thing we're gonna do, now it's a little bit less form shooting, we're gonna shoot regular. So we're no longer holding the ball like this. Now we're gonna hold it with both our hands like we normally do. Again, check your hand placement, make sure that shooting hand's in the middle and your guide hand is off to the top / back / side, depending on how you look at it. So not here, but kind of here. All right, now what I tell players to start with is pulling all of their fingers off. So the only thing that's going to be touching with your guide hand is the palm. All right, so now again, if your hands are too close, this is going to feel like the ball is falling out. So this is almost forcing you to get here on top of the basketball or on the side of the basketball, depending on how you kind of look at it. But again, hands not too close because it's going to feel like the ball is falling out. Now I'm palming it here, but if I didn't, the ball would fall out, right? So we're going to go here and we're going to pull all of our fingers off, and then we're just going to shoot like that. And you're still trying to think about ending up just like a field goal. If you've ever seen a ref call a touchdown or a field goal, they'll go right here every single time. This is what we're trying to create with our guide hand, making sure we don't turn. So this is why we start with our guide hand fingers pulled off, then we're going to get up and then just push right through that guide hand every single time. And I want you every single time when you catch the ball, or if you don't have a rebounder, when you grab the ball, get set up, find your hand placement. This is what I did to get rid of my thumb flick. I used to go on a shooting machine. I would grab the ball, find the air hole, put my right hand there, pull all my fingers off, and then just keep shooting there. Obviously start close, all right? Obviously start close and begin to back up. You're starting with the one hand form shooting, then the guide hand slide, then you're getting to this where you're having all your fingers pulled back. Then when you get better at it, you're gonna still keep checking your hand placement, because again, hand placement is basically like the first domino that creates this guide hand flick. And then what you're gonna do is, instead of all of your guide hand fingers off, you're gonna just pull your thumb off. So now we have these 4 fingers on, but we're gonna have our thumb off, and now we're just shooting there. All right, and you're gonna, again, start close, begin to back up. If you're noticing that you're thumbing it more, or if you record yourself, which is probably something you should do, if you're noticing that you're thumbing it more, or your backspin's starting to get messed up, get a little closer, build that strength there and the habit of not, flicking it with your guide hand, and then begin to back up. Now, the last step is just to shoot normal. So now we're not gonna pull any fingers off. If you still like to check your hand placement, please do. Make sure your hands aren't too close. Your shooting hands in the middle and your guide hands off to the side / top. And now you're not gonna have any fingers pulled off. You're not gonna have your thumb pulled off. You're not gonna have your 4 fingers, all your fingers. It's gonna have just all your hands, all your fingers are on the ball now. And you're just gonna shoot normal. If you're noticing that, again, you're flicking the ball or the backspin's off, you can go back to the drills there. If again, you wanna check the hand placement, please do. But you're again gonna start close, shoot regular, find that backspin, and begin to back up until you feel comfortable where you're not pushing with your guide hand. All right, so that's how you get rid of a thumb flick. If you like this video, please don't hesitate to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow me on the rest of my socials for more shooting advice and basketball advice.